Okay, good morning students. Today I've decided to do this story titled My Greatest Olympic Prize by Jesse Owens. It's a very interesting story, and remember, to begin with, it's a true story of this Afro-American athlete who went on to become a star in the Summer Games that were held in Berlin in the year 1936. Now, this is the flow of today's lecture or delivery, and before I walk you through the story, I would like to tell you a thing or two about the Berlin Olympics of 1936, because you have to understand the political context of this particular story. So we will talk a bit about history in brief. So remember, the World War took place between the years 1914 to 1918. Okay, and I'm sure all of you know that Germany lost the war, and after Germany lost the war, the condition of life in Germany for the people there was not good, was bad, in the sense there was a lot of hyperinflation, in the sense money lost its value, basic commodities cost a lot, number one. Number two is there was a lot of unemployment as well, okay, in Germany. And plus the Allied forces, when Germany surrendered, the terms and conditions of the surrender to the Germans were humiliating, were very, very insulting, okay, and the terms and conditions were such that the Allied forces, they wanted to ensure that the Germany as a country would not become powerful again and would not threaten European and subsequently world peace. So the terms of Germany's surrender were very, very humiliating, okay, and it was during this time, this phase, that Hitler, who had fought in World War I, rose to power, okay, and everything at that point of time was laid at the step of the Germans. Like, the Germans were blamed for, number one, starting the war. Remember, here I'm talking about World War I. They were also held responsible for breaking the peace, and they were also held responsible for committing a lot of cruelty and atrocities in the places that they fought. So the German pride was hurt, and the Germans, they felt that they had hit a rock bottom as a nation, and they looked to Hitler to guide them and take them out of their plight or their misery. And Hitler, he cashed in on it, okay. Now also remember that the International Olympic Committee at this point of time, okay, they awarded in the year 1931, kids, in the year 1931, the International Olympic Committee awarded the Summer Games to Berlin, okay, and the Summer Games were to be held in the year 1936, and in the year 1933, kids, Hitler came to power in Germany. Okay, now after Hitler came to power in Germany, things are very, very different, because what he did was he toppled the Weimar Republic, the democratic government in Germany, number one. Number two is all the people who opposed him, his political opponents, he imprisoned them, and he also put into place a lot of anti-Jewish policies, and plus he began in earnest the remilitarization of Germany. So Hitler, when he realized that Germany as a nation, they have to be the hosts of the 1936 games that was to be held in Berlin, he wasn't that keen on the idea of hosting the Olympics. It was only after his propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels told him of the propaganda value of the Olympics, that he consented and decided to really lavishly fund and sponsor the Olympic Games. Okay, so far, so that's that. Okay, now I just want you to also understand the meaning of the word propaganda. So what does the word propaganda mean? Propaganda is something, propaganda is basically kids, where ideas are spread to influence the thoughts and feelings of people and society. So the Nazis, they were fantastic, they were very, very efficient, good users of propaganda to unite the people of Germany, and not only to unite the people of Germany, but also to promote their ideology, to promote their beliefs and principles. They used a lot of propaganda. Okay, and they were very successful, because at that point the Nazis or Hitler's party, they had control over the army, they had control over the police, they had control over music, they had control over the youth, they had control over lawyers. They basically controlled every facet or every aspect of life in German society. And so they used propaganda to, number one, to let's say, to promise happiness. Okay, like for example, there was this particular movie made by Hitler, on Hitler and his fellow Nazi officers, and the film was titled The Triumph of the Will, where Hitler and his fellow Nazi officers were shown as leaders with boundless courage, energy, strength, and honor, who would take, who would lift Germany to new heights of glory and prosperity. Okay, and in the movie Triumph of the Will, the negative or the darker sides of Nazi rule were completely ignored. Okay, so they used propaganda to promise happiness, number one. They used propaganda to also instill fear. Okay, fear of whom? Fear of the Jewish people. They told the people, they told the Germans that all the ills that were plaguing them, they were beset, they were surrounded by, the fact that they were in so much of trouble was because the Jews had conspired against the nation of Germany. So a lot of the unhappiness and the condition of the German nation was placed at the door of the responsibility of all that was placed at the door of the Jews. Okay, so propaganda can be positive as well, propaganda can be negative as well, but nowadays when we talk about propaganda, it usually has a negative meaning. So why I spoke about propaganda was because the Berlin Olympics, okay, it served as a good platform for the Nazis to spread their beliefs and ideas about the master race, about Jews, about different theories that they used to support their claim to power. So let's keep it at that. Okay, fine. So it was in this political climate, kids, that the Berlin Olympics were about to take place, and you also need to remember that there were a lot of campaigns in America where a lot of groups, they wanted to boycott the Berlin Olympics because of the condition, the political, the social condition that prevailed, that existed in Germany at that point of time. But after a heated debate, finally the Americans consented to participate in the summer games that were being held in Berlin. Okay, fine. So now Jesse Owens, who was an Afro-American athlete, too was part of the contingent representing America. Okay. Now, having said this, let's move on to Hitler's theory of the master race. Okay. Now, here I would like to talk to you a bit about Darwin's theory of evolution, kids. Okay. Darwin's theory of evolution is something which you will study in biology. Okay, so Darwin's theory of evolution, what does it state? That plants and animals, okay, they have to adapt to their environment, okay, and accordingly, if they adapt successfully, they'll be able to thrive and they'll be able to reproduce and successfully pass on their genes to the next generation. Okay, and plants and animals that aren't able to adapt to their surroundings, those plants and animals, they will die, they will perish, they will not be able to survive. So this particular theory was taken by a lot of scholars, and this particular theory, which was a scientific theory, people said that this scientific theory is applicable to people and society as well. So what they said was, drawing from Darwin's theory of evolution, they said that things like life is a continuous struggle for existence. There is a battle, there's constant competition between individuals and between nations. They said things like the rich are rich because they deserve to be rich, and the poor are poor because they are not fit to be rich. They also said things like nations, the powerful nations have every right to control, to subjugate, and sometimes destroy lesser races as well. And in fact, there were a lot of people at that point of time, there were a lot of scholars, educated people in Europe and in North America who said that man has evolved. Every race, every community has evolved from the first human at their own pace, because of which some had progressed more than the others. Okay, and what they did was they had constructed a pyramid. Okay, they constructed a pyramid. Okay, where they placed the people of European descent right on top, and they placed people of other races in the lower rungs of the pyramid. So Hitler, what he did was, and the Nazis, what they did was, they cashed in on this idea. So why I told you this was because you need to understand that Hitler wasn't the one who was unique in his belief in the superiority of a certain race. This thought, this feeling did exist at that point of time, and Hitler cashed in on it, and Hitler went on to say that the Aryans or the Germans belong to the master race. They were the ones with the pure blood. Okay, and it was their duty to rule other races. And Hitler also went on to so in the pyramid, in their pyramid, right on top you have the Aryan race, the ones with the pure blood. Okay, and in the subsequent rungs you have other European races, and at the bottom rung, okay, the lowest rung, he placed blacks, or let's call them Afro-Americans, okay, gypsies, 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 in the sense people who don't have a home of their own, they move from place to place, as well as Jews. Okay, and remember that Jesse Owens, the writer of this particular story, okay, was an Afro-American. Okay, so this was what Hitler thought about about the Aryans. He said that the Aryans were the master race because, again, another quick point is because they felt that the Germans, vis-a-vis, or if one were to compare them with other races, in terms of art, architecture, let's say sculpture, literature, they were the ones who had contributed a lot. So they were intellectually, they were mentally superior to other races. And racism also implies, racism is basically, kids, a belief that you are, your race is superior to other races, okay? And there's also this feeling that the other races are not as morally good or not as morally upright as your race. There's a certain deficiency in those races. So that was the idea. Okay. So having said that, so remember why I spoke about the political context and including the Hitler's theory of the master race is because you have to if you understand the political context and if you understand the Hitler's theory of the master race, then you will get a better idea and understanding and appreciation of Jesse Owens's victory in the Berlin Olympics. Okay, fine. So then now we'll have to talk about Jesse Owens. So remember, this particular story has been told from by Jesse Owens itself. It's an autobiographical account. Okay, and this story is based on a real life event. Means it actually took place. Okay, there's actually matter on the net. Means you can, as there are pictures available on the net. If you would like to, you can look it up. Okay, now let's look at Jesse Owens. Now Jesse Owens was the star athlete, kids. Okay, in the Berlin Olympics of 1936. He went on to win 4 gold medals, one 400 meters, the other for 200 meters, and the third for, I suppose, the long jump. Earlier it was called the broad jump or something, but long jump, and he also won another gold medal for the 400 meter relay race. But he had a very, very troubled childhood. Okay, his I suppose his father was a sharecropper and his grandfather was a slave, and he had to do menial jobs to support his studies. He worked as a delivery boy. He worked in a shoe repair shop. He also helped to load freight cars, and his athletic skills came out in the open from a very young age. Even in school, he was renowned. He was well known for his athleticism, and even when he joined college, and the name of the college is mentioned in your book, Ohio State University, he went on to win a lot of accolades, and it was there that he went on to break the world record, which is mentioned in your book. Now, I just want to dwell a bit on his life because even his life he was at the receiving end of a lot of racism in America. Remember, racism did exist at that point of time. So here now, remember, I've already spoken about I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, Maya Angelou's. That too, the theme, or one of the themes of that particular poem is racism. Okay, so Jesse Owens, while studying at that particular university, whenever he went out with first of all, he could not live in the campus. He had to live in another place meant only for Afro-Americans. When he traveled with his team, he had to eat only at blacks-only restaurants. He could stay only at blacks-only hotels, and he was also not eligible for a scholarship because of the color of his skin. So Jesse Owens he understood racism very deeply because he faced racism, he faced discrimination because of the color of his skin. And here you have one man, kids, okay, an Afro-American, and here he is going to a nation that has placed the Afro-American at the lowest rung of the evolutionary pyramid. So his decision to go there and prove a thing or two about or to make a statement against the beliefs and principles of Hitler was a political decision, was a personal decision as well. Because later on, when you read the okay, fine, I think I jumped the gun, but that was it about Jesse Owens. So what I want you to remember is that he himself faced a lot of okay, so kids, remember that he also, it's when you read the story, and please do read the story before you watch this particular video. Okay, so when you read the story, you realize that Jesse Owens spent 6 years, kids, 6 years preparing and training himself hard for this particular event. Now, remember that Olympics is I mean to say, if you're an athlete, okay, the Olympics is a true test of your worth, and that's the pinnacle of your sport. So for you to become a successful, for anyone to become a successful Olympic athlete, he has to give it his everything. So the journey of an athlete, remember kids, starts way before the Olympics. Okay, so that's why Jesse Owens, with this goal in mind, okay, he prepared for the Olympic Games. And even when he was on board the ship coming to Germany, he kept on thinking about the medals that he would win. Okay, now a very interesting thing happened is he had already broken the world record back in America, and everyone expected him to actually win the long jump event hands down. And so I'm sure all of you know that we have these athletic meets at school. So you have the heats, and once you qualify in the heats, then you or when you qualify, or when you have the trial sessions, and when you qualify the trial sessions, then you go on to participate in the final event. So Jesse Owens, when he was the day before the main event, when he was jumping to qualify, he realized that there was another athlete who was hitting, who was jumping really well. And this glance at this athlete who was performing really well in the heats kind of shook him up a bit, kind of upset him a bit, and it kind of upset his equilibrium or his frame of mind, because Lutz Long, who was Hitler's surprise, so someone told him that Lutz Long is Hitler's secret weapon, and with Lutz Long Hitler hoped to win the long jump event. So a mixture of all these things, and plus obviously remember the background. So Jesse Owens told himself that if this guy were to actually win, or if I cannot outdo him in the heats, then it will strengthen Hitler's theory of the Aryans being a superior race. And even the physical characteristics of Lutz Long were typical of that of the superior Aryan race. So the Nazis believed that the ideal Aryan, okay, has blonde hair, has got blue eyes, okay, and who's physically really fit and tall and all that. So even in terms of the physical features, Lutz Long blended in or fitted perfectly with the Nazi image of the superior Aryan race. So then Jesse Owens, he realizes that though he is angry, and so he wants to prove a thing or two, and with these emotions, these whirl of emotions in his mind, okay, he went for his first jump and he fouled in the sense, basically it was a very simple thing. If this is the pit, okay, this is the takeoff point. Okay, so he made a foul in this particular point, in the sense probably if this is the takeoff point, he might have stepped a bit ahead of the takeoff point, resulting in a foul. Okay, so he was already, so that was the first foul. Again, he made another foul, and then he told himself that had he come 3,000 miles just to foul out of the Olympics, and this thought really upset him. Okay, and remember that the third time if he'd foul, he'd be disqualified from participating in the final games, thus dashing his dreams, okay, of winning in that particular event, because he already was known for being a fantastic long jumper. Okay, so now he was a bit troubled, so he went to one side of the track and he probably kicked the dirt, and it was at that point of time that he felt a hand on his shoulder, and he looked to see the same athlete who really jumped nicely, trying to talk to him. And it was at that point of time that Lutz Long recognized, Lutz Long understood this thing, that Jesse Owens was having a tough time, and probably Lutz Long, because he himself was an athlete, kind of understood what was going on in Jesse Owens' mind. And they just started talking casually, and then Lutz Long kind of told him that, yes, though there is a lot of talk about the Aryans being the superior race and all that, but Lutz Long told Jesse Owens that he does not quite buy that particular theory. Okay, and so which put Jesse Owens' mind at ease. And he also, as I'm sure Lutz Long knew about Jesse Owens, because okay, if someone is really good at something, then the news travels fast. Okay, so Jesse Owens, so Lutz Long told Jesse Owens that you should be able to qualify with your eyes closed, which was a statement of admiration for Jesse Owens. And Lutz Long also gave him very sound practical advice. What Lutz Long told him was to make a mark behind the takeoff point and to jump from here, because Lutz Long helped Jesse Owens clear his mind by telling him that, hey, listen, right now these are just the heats. That what matters is tomorrow. Tomorrow is the main day, and tomorrow is the time when you have to really prove your worth. So this practical advice helped Jesse Owens to clear his head. Now what? So why do we watch sports? Yes, we do watch sports for the excitement, but we also watch sports for the drama involved, for those moments. Okay, that is what makes watching sports games interesting. So here you have Lutz Long kids whom Hitler had kept aside, like a secret weapon, and Hitler wanted to win the long jump event. He wanted Lutz Long to win the long jump event, thereby strengthening the theory of the Aryans being belonging to the master race. And Lutz Long also was a member of the Nazi Youth Party. And remember, I've already told you that the Nazi propaganda machine was very, very powerful, and Nazi beliefs and practices had seeped into every corner of society. And a lot of people, they actually believe in all that the Nazis or Hitler's party spoke about. And so for Lutz Long, who was a member of the Nazi youth group, even the Nazi youth were indoctrinated, or they too were repeatedly their minds were channelized in such a way that many of them believed again in the theories of the beliefs and principles of the Nazis. So for someone like Lutz Long, okay, for him to overcome, remember, this race barrier, okay, and to come and help, to step forward and help a fellow athlete in his time of need, at a very critical point or moment in his fellow athlete's life, was a remarkable example of sportsmanship, was a remarkable. So in the sense, here it's not only about Jesse Owens, it's also about Lutz Long, because Lutz Long showed tremendous character and independence of mind to step forward to help Jesse Owens. Because just think about it, if he would have just let Jesse Owens be, if Jesse Owens hadn't qualified for in his third practice leave, if he had fouled out of the Olympics, then to whose advantage would so that would have been to whose advantage? Obviously, kids, that would have been to Lutz Long's advantage. But he rose above these mean, narrow, petty thoughts, and he chose to display good character. It's not that he chose to display good character, he genuinely possessed good character, and so he stepped forward to help Jesse Owens. And then Jesse Owens, when he took the third leap, was a successful leap, and he qualified for the final event, which was supposed to take place the next day. So Jesse Owens felt very good, and he relaxed, and that very same night he went to the Olympic Village, and the two of them, they started conversing, and they shared a lot of things about what was happening in the world, about probably, I'm sure they shared a thing or two about their own lives, about their sport, about athletics, etc. And Jesse Owens, I'm sure he was amazed and pleasantly surprised on knowing that here an embodiment of or a personification of the Nazi, someone who's a personification, somebody who's an embodiment or a representative of your quintessential or your typical master race was talking to him in a very cool manner, in a very human manner. I mean to say, Lutz Long did not look at Jesse Owens through the lens of racism. So Jesse Owens, though he faced a lot of discrimination and racism in America, and plus when he reached Germany as well, in fact the blacks who were the Afro-Americans who were part of the contingent were ridiculed, and a lot of bad terms were used for them. Like, for example, they were called the black auxiliaries of the American team, and Jesse Owens was repeatedly referred to by commentators as a Negro. So for someone to be at the receiving end of so much of racism, so much of discrimination, so much of ill feeling, for him to just sit and to share good moments with a fellow athlete, and that too a German, must have been really consoling. I'm sure it must have gladdened his heart, and he must have also told himself that there is still humanity left in the world. Okay, so, and then he left, and then obviously the next day they were supposed to compete, and being athletes, remember that both of them would want the other to win, but they would put in their best. So obviously in the final, so as we know that in the final event, the final day, Jesse Owens, Lutz Long, he beat his own record. So even his performance was good. At the same time, so when he saw that, Jesse Owens was spurred to perform better. Okay, so obviously, so just imagine it's the final day and you have crowds screaming and chanting your name. Okay, and then so there is this. So if he were to lose, then that would strengthen Hitler's theory of the master race, and if he were to win, that would be a symbolic defeat of Hitler's, or it would undermine or weaken Hitler's theory of the master race. So think of the pressure on Jesse Owens's mind, and because of that adrenaline, obviously he prepared for years and years and years for this one moment. So a combination of all these things spurred him to really perform well, and he went on to win the gold medal in that particular event as well. Okay, fine. So and then Hitler, and then Jesse Owens, obviously, then towards the end, he talks about, Jesse Owens also makes this comment in the story that he talks about the 24-carat friendship that he developed with Jesse Owens, and that's what the title of the story refers to. So remember, on that particular day, kids, there wasn't one winner, but there were two winners. So obviously Jesse Owens won it, and despite the odds stacked against him, he went on to symbolically weaken or defeat Hitler's idea of racial superiority. Number one. Number two was even Lutz Long. Why was Lutz Long a winner? Because of his display of sportsmanship, which is the most important theme of this particular story. So my greatest Olympic prize. So Jesse Owens, he goes on to say that these, obviously, just think about it, the medals will gather dust, but the memories kids will last forever. So the thing that he prized the most, at the Berlin Summer Olympics was the friendship that he had developed with Lutz Long. That was what he really treasured. That was something that he really valued a lot. Okay, now let's look at the theme of this particular story. The theme is sportsmanship. Now, what exactly do you mean by sportsmanship, kids? Sportsmanship has two components or two parts, remember. The first one is good conduct. Okay, first one is good conduct means you have to show fairness and respect to your opponent or to the opposing team. And the element or component of sportsmanship is graciousness in defeat. In the sense, even if one were to lose, one should not let a win get to one's head or a loss to one's heart. That's the sense. So in terms of good conduct, okay, don't you think Lutz Long, the very fact that he overcame the race barrier, he overcame that, he did not quite bother, and at the end, remember that even, okay, fine. So good conduct in the sense he went and he treated Jesse Owens with respect, with kindness, with fellow feeling, okay, and he showed respect for his number one opponent on that particular day. So he displayed good conduct on both the days, and plus graciousness in defeat. So after Jesse Owens won, when Lutz Long went to shake hands with Jesse Owens, he did that with a very open heart. In the sense, it wasn't a fake gesture on the part of Lutz Long. Okay, so he was very gracious in defeat. And another thing about the end is this, that despite Hitler being in the stands, Lutz Long did not hesitate to shake hands with Jesse Owens. So in the sense, okay, fine. Okay, so one way of looking at it is this, that he shook hands with Jesse Owens in the presence of Hitler, thereby snubbing Hitler. Okay, you can look at it that way. So you could also probably say that wasn't a mere gesture. That was a statement on the part of, or that was a statement by Lutz Long. Anyway, so the theme of this particular story, kids, is sportsmanship, because Lutz Long displayed good conduct and he was also gracious in defeat. Okay. Fine. So now what is the message? Well, the message is very, very simple. Okay. The message is, remember kids, individual excellence. Individual excellence does not depend on your race or your community. Okay. Individual excellence is merit based, and you can't use race or a community. You cannot use theories of race to distinguish one person from another. Excellence is something that one has to earn through hard work, and excellence is not limited to one particular race or one particular community. And another message is this story, remember, is also a victory of good over evil. Okay, and also you need to remember that in this particular story, like sports is all about the 5 S's. Okay, you have strength, you have stamina, you have skill, you have speed, and you also have spirit. But the greatest of these is spirit. So when you participate, so for in a game like Olympics, okay, which is a metaphor for world cooperation, okay, and plus it's the pinnacle of a particular sport, like for example athletics. Okay, so for an athlete, for him to win an Olympic gold medal, okay, he has to work really, really hard, and that is the pinnacle of his sport. Okay, in order to do that, okay, fine. So let's keep it at that as of now. And the irony, what was the irony? Well, the irony was this, that the star of the American contingent, who went on to win so many medals for his country, when he returned to America, okay, he still faced a lot of discrimination and racism in America, despite being the star athlete at the Berlin Olympics of 1936. In fact, it seems that Roosevelt, when he called all the contingent to the White House, Jesse Owens wasn't invited, and he found it very difficult to get a job. He had to work as a salesman, and he also had to race against amateurs and horses in order to make a living. Later on, obviously, his life became a lot better, but despite symbolically defeating this thing, Hitler's theory of the master race, he had to face a lot of discrimination in America. So that was the irony. So just remember that racism is a problem, kids, that existed in Nazi Germany then, that existed in this thing in America then. It still exists in America now, and racism still exists in the digital age. It's, in fact, if you keep your eyes open and you are observant enough, you will see instances of racism all around you in one form or the other. So this is a few other things. There are a few more things that I'd like to discuss. I hope you've kind of understood the story. Read the story at least thrice, and you have your workbook. The questions are there in your workbook. Now please write answers to, answer those questions in your workbook. I will see you in the next class. Bye bye.